Welcome to our first dialogue about the 10 components. You may have noticed, if you've been around the thinking environment for a while, that things do change. And Nancy's certainly in a phase of her process where she's really getting granular with it and actually, I would say, kind of making it more accessible in a way. Like her latest definitions and her thoughts are very much sort of, what would we just say? We're just doing a thinking process. What would you just say? So appreciation is going to be our first component, and the definition used to be offering genuine acknowledgement of a person's qualities, practicing a 5-to-1 ratio of appreciation to criticism as a kind of definition. Whereas now it's noticing what is good and saying it. So, Lou, it would be lovely to sort of, where's our freshest thinking with appreciation in this month of August? So what's your freshest thinking about the component of appreciation?
My freshest thinking is that I'm really loving that new definition, which is quite new to me. And it just seems to say very simply what appreciation is, and clear is kind. So I'm very much valuing that shift in thinking. Appreciation is, in some ways, if we think about the components as being values of a thinking environment that we enact in practice, so a thing that does, not just a word or a good intention or a nice sentiment. Appreciation is actually one of the easiest to figure out how to enact, because what we do to enact it is appreciate other people. I mean, it's straightforward, it's simple. And at its best, I have seen appreciation slowly build trust over time within a group of people. I've also seen some terrible instances, and really I would say abuses of appreciation, which have caused me to reflect on how powerful it is. And I have a very personal story of one of those at a Time to Think Collegiate, which is where thinking environment practitioners come together really from around the world. I was in a thinking partnership with someone I'd never met before. And at the end, part of the thinking partnership process is the final part is appreciating one another. And I gave her some appreciation and she received it. And then she said, I struggle with appreciation, so I'm not going to appreciate you. I didn't care about this person. I can't even remember her name. I didn't particularly warm to her or like her. What her thoughts meant nothing to me. But 10 years later, I can still feel how that made me feel. Because, of course, another component was not enacted there, the component of equality and the equality of appreciation. So I think it's really powerful. I think it seems to be really simple in terms of what we're actually asking people to do, being sincere, specific, succinct, but we just muck it up quite often. And my thoughts are really caught up with how to teach it better, I think. What do you think?
It's interesting thinking about experience of it. And for you, saying it was, it's quite simple and straightforward and, why wouldn't we? Actually, one of my first experiences of seeing appreciation in action was in a counselling skills course I did a long time ago. And everybody in the group was given appreciation. So, one person would be receiving appreciation from a number of people. And one of the women actually left because she couldn't handle being appreciated in that way. And it really, I've got to admit, it's one of the components that I've found hardest over the years, because there's something about appreciation and what that means psychologically for us. We're not used to it necessarily. We perhaps do feel vulnerable, where we're opening up to that. Is criticism more real? Are we used to that? Are we more used to being told what we need to do better, rather than appreciating what we've already done? There's something about being accepted by other people, and if we open up and start to appreciate other people, or people appreciate us, it's that trust, isn't it? So yeah, I feel like it's one to develop, and it's quite deep, and when you have it, it definitely has an effect. It has that, if people are believing it and trusting it, it has to be sincere as well, because if we're feeling vulnerable about giving it or receiving it, it needs to be sincere, and we need to keep having it delivered in this way that we do in a thinking environment. What do you think?
I wonder if one of the reasons why, I think there's a couple of reasons why I personally don't struggle with appreciation. I think, firstly, appreciation is almost where I came in to the thinking environment. So even before I did any training, I would be in staff meetings at the Centre for HIV and Sexual Health in Sheffield, which would always end with appreciation. So it was my first encounter really with the thinking environment. And I think as the years have gone by, in Joy FE, in Joyful Practice, we talk about micro joys, and appreciation. It's a micro joy. We build it into thinking environment situations, but appreciation is a gift we can offer to people at any time, isn't it? In any place, in a queue for the bus, or, at Tesco or whatever. And I think probably I warm to it because I'm good at it, and I'm good at it because I've had lots of practice. It is a joyful practice. Not to say that the other components aren't, but it's the one that most speaks to me of joy. Yes, you mentioned sincere. Human beings absolutely feel it when people are being insincere. And when people are not used to receiving appreciation, I think we can be like a little bit suspicious about it, can't we? And assume it's insincere when it's not. And of course, specific is really important because people want to know exactly what it is that you appreciate about them. But the S that most speaks to me in appreciation, and the one that honestly I roll my eyes about, and I was chatting with somebody about this just the other day, is succinct. Appreciation has to be succinct because we just can't hear people banging on about how great we are. And if it's not succinct, it's not likely to be specific either, because people ramble on about, all the things they like about you. So I love that, but I still struggle after all this time to get people to hear me. I will say, I'll make a joke and say 7 words or less, and this is where we all find that we can't count, and people laugh, and then the first person to go in the round will say about 30 words in appreciation. So that's definitely something to work on. And another thought is that Nancy is very clear, and I have really taken this on board, that appreciation is different from saying a thank you, which she has always said, when you say thank you, you make it your party. And that really stuck with me because it's true. And it is not praise, because there's an inequality in praise. There's a head patting sort of infantilization. And we're surrounded by hierarchies in the family structure, in society, and certainly in the workplace. And there's an awful lot of head patting going up and down. What I really love about appreciation is that it really is an exchange of joy between equals. What do you think?
Yeah, I love that. What it makes me think about is appreciation. Obviously, we do appreciation as a practice, as an exercise, and we kind of trying to get it to be this succinct, specific thing. And I think one word is kind of a nice way to start, in a way. It's like, not 7 words, let's just not, you know, let's have 1 word, but let's take some time to really think about what it is that we want to appreciate. So there's that, and then what comes out is much more that little micro joy. And yeah, the thank you comes from the person receiving it, and that's all that's required, because it is totally for that person. As with the thinking process, you know, it's all about giving that person their time to think. It's all about giving that person the appreciation for them. We know we're going to get it back, is the equality. We're not going to wait around thinking, are we? Which is why it was so painful, your experience. But it also makes me think about the hidden, it's not so hidden, but the hidden nature of appreciation. So we do it in rounds and we do it in that way. But also we constantly are appreciating each other when we're in a thinking environment. We're offering that question, what do you think? It's an appreciation in itself of the fact that we think that you think well, and that we are going to listen to it with that generative, curious, interested attention. So it's like that, those other layers of appreciation, whether it's a smile or a question that you know, honors us as thinkers, as human beings. So yes, there are other layers to it. It's not just that exercise. And I guess I'm gonna stop there. What do you think?
I am really interested in what you say about 1 word appreciation. I have seen you do that beautifully, actually, and the importance of where you might fill the space by saying, what I appreciate about you today, but really I appreciate lots of things about you, and it's really hard to pick one. While you're saying all those words that we hear people say and hear ourselves say so often, you could be silent and settling your thoughts and actually coming up with the one perfect word that might really surprise the person you're appreciating and give them some amazing insight into how you see them. And less is absolutely more, isn't it? And I wonder sometimes when we are saying all of that apologetic stuff about, oh, I want to appreciate everything, but I'm only allowed to say 1 word. It's still that sense of, oh my God, they're going to be offended if I don't get it right somehow. But appreciation isn't about fulfilling a need that you're assuming about another human being. It's just a genuine and no strings attached gift of joy. So I'm going to hand over to you with a word of appreciation. And my word is serenity. What do you think, Bri?
Thank you. Oh, I would like to appreciate, what would I like to appreciate about you? I would like to appreciate your passion.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you everybody for listening to the first of our dialogues about the 10 components.